just no swimming pool.
So we're looking to buy a house, and we saw a house with a pool in the backyard. And I thought, we're in Michigan, who's gonna use a freaking pool, in-ground pool in Michigan for like a month during the summer, right? Then, when we fly into Florida, we see these houses with these huge, like, three-season porches over their pools, so they can use it without getting eaten by mosquitoes.
Yes.
I thought, how hard would it be to put like a greenhouse over a pool? You could probably use it during the winter, but would it be then an indoor pool,
It's kind of bad in
I don't
Florida.
know.
right?
Everybody,
No.
We'd have to
Would
ask
be.
Bro.
We get about 4 months. 4 months use.
Yeah.
But it's 6 months worth of work, if not more, so.
Not worth it, is it?
It's, to me, I resent it so much, but I don't care about it. I mean, I don't go in it, I don't care, but it looks good, but like, everybody uses it, but I'm kinda like,
Last thing I need is all the neighbor kids stopping by.
we don't have that, it's just family, people are, I mean, I guess,
Have the council members have their kids dropped off.
good luck. We talked about renting it out, maybe it'll get more use. I don't know.
party.
It's called Swimsy, you can rent out people's pools.
Really?
Yes,
Really?
yes.
There's an app for that?
Swimsy, you can charge like $150 an hour or something like that. And I told my wife, well, that's great, because our insurance will go up more than that, and then we don't have an outdoor bathroom, so do we have to?
Did Deb call you and say she was not gonna be here?
Yes, such a problem
Okay.
would be.
Marty coming?
Porter potty.
No, Marty's not, is on
Thought
vacation.
about that.
Okay.
Take one from down here. Just
Ms. Hodge,
Yes.
Councilperson Petrie would like you to know that she expects the audio to work for the video
I
tonight.
already checked it, it's working, you can check it.
I just wanted to pass along the information.
Okay, yeah, I pulled it up. I can hear you.
Can you hear me now?
I could. I could double check again.
Can you tell me why our switches? Switch. Okay, everybody just mouth words.
Why is he throwing a chair? What's going on? Most views ever with no words.
No, you didn't.
I lived on Courtney's place.
Okay. Yeah, no, it's off of Kyle's place, which is one street over.
Okay.
Well, we got that pen ready already.
I'm ready.
Yeah, we
This is gonna be an exciting meeting, just so you know.
Yeah, right.
10 minutes, right?
He just wanted, it's the one that kind of sits.
Don't say 10, you know, it's gonna go. It's gonna go.
I wrote a story.
It's gonna go.
There's a lot of
Privacy.
junk.
All right, it is 6:30, call to order. Kim, you got roll call?
Got it?
We need approval of the July 10th, 2025 agenda.
So moved.
So moved. Do we have any discussion? Or there's no discussion?
Support.
Any support? Any discussion, I'm sorry. All those in favor with an aye?
Aye.
All those opposed with a nay? Motion carries. In front of you are the minutes from the regular meeting held on June 12th of 2025. What's your flavor on this one?
I'll move those minutes.
We have a motion to be moved. Do we have support?
Support.
We have support. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those will vote with an aye. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. Now we will open up to public comments. I'll give you 3 minutes if you wish to discuss it to the board. I guess seeing none, I guess I'll close public comments. We have no public hearings scheduled, we have no site plans, but we are to other business. We have a site plan extension for Wood Chips Mixed Use Building at 480 West Neverson. Take it away, Mr. Keller.
All right. Looks like no applicant representative here tonight. That is just fine. So we've got a site plan approval extension in front of you guys tonight. 480 West Nipissing Street, and this is the site of the Wood Chips Mixed Use Building site plan. I'm sure you guys are familiar with this print. We looked at it last summer. Here's the location of the vacant parcel along Nipissing Street here that the applicant is proposing to construct this 3-story mixed-use building. And then here's a quick image. This is really hard to see, but here's the floor plan of each of those 3 floors. So as you may remember, first floor is going to be kind of restaurant space. Second floor is office space. Third floor is going to be a couple of apartment units. So they received site plan approval last July. 3-story mixed-use building on a currently vacant parcel is proposed. Our zoning ordinance, section 7/1806, allows for the planning commission to authorize an extension of the time limit of the site plan approval for up to 1 additional year. The extension shall be based on evidence from the applicant that the development has a likelihood of commencing construction within that extension period. And then included in your packets is a much longer version of this comment that I'm about to read, but we had a comment from the applicant whenever we have a site plan extension, a site plan that's about to expire, Kim and I reach out to the applicant and say, hey, your site plan's about to expire. 1, would you like to request an extension? And 2, do you have any statement to share with the planning commission that will help to justify this point here that says that construction needs to commence within the next year? So in response to those messages that we sent them, the applicant said, we are working in good faith to secure the necessary funding and the appropriate construction partners to bring this project to reality. But we require more time to ensure we have everything set up for long-term success. We do not have a specific timeline, but plan on breaking ground by spring of next year, 2026. Happy to answer any questions you guys may have as you look at your packet materials and think about a motion on this one.
Pretty straightforward to me. Any discussion, any questions?
I mean, it doesn't cost us anything, doesn't change anything for us. I guess my only comment would be that, you know, despite what the Facebook crowd might think sometimes, you know, we approved this, what, a year ago?
Last July, yeah.
We haven't been the holdup on this. We haven't been the holdup on numerous projects. It's just an unfortunate construction atmosphere, I think, right now. And I just hope that the city's not going to be blamed for, you know, the time it's taking for them to come to fruition.
Completely agree. Mr. Atwood?
Just a clarification, in the zoning ordinance, it says up to an additional 1 year. Does that mean next year will be we can't extend it again?
Correct, they get one
They
year.
get 1, yeah.
Yeah, I think the reasoning is because in the intervening 2 years, the law can change, the code can change.
Okay.
So they can come back and resubmit a site plan that has to then be reviewed,
Right.
but it just can't be extended.
Okay.
Exactly. Yeah, so if they came back, if we were to give them another year and then that year expired, and then they needed to wait another 6 months, they'd have to resubmit full site
Everything.
plan again, and maybe it'd be an easier review if the plan stayed the same, but I've seen it in other communities that that clock expires, and then they resubmit again, and they say the plan's gonna be the same, and then it's not the same. So it's really good that we have a full, thorough review, second review, because it's not the same plan that we formally approved, so.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, I guess I can make a motion. I make a motion to approve the 1-year site plan extension requested by Patrick, I never knew his last name. Hinst. For the Wood Chips mixed-use building to be constructed in the vacant land at 480 West Nipissing Street because the project is likely to commence before the site plan approval expires on July 10th of 2026.
I'm for it.
We got motion and support. Any discussion? None, seeing none, we'll vote with an aye. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed with a nay? Seeing none, motion carries. Thank you very much. for that. And then text amendments.
Yes, so our main agenda item here tonight, I'm gonna start by reading off this meeting memo that's included in your packets a little bit. So included in your planning commission meeting packets is a document titled City of Lapeer Zoning Ordinance, Ongoing Potential Text Amendments, and that's the document that comes right after the memo here. So this is a document that I have compiled based on discussions with Alex, our past city planner, and city manager Mike Womack over the last year or so, as well as reviewing some notes from Alex and some past planning commission meeting minutes. So this has basically been a running list that we've kept in the planning department based on things that Kim have seen, based on things that we as the planners have seen, based on discussions we've had with Mike, based on actions that the planning commission has taken. We have started this running list of potential text amendments to work on, maybe with the planning commission. So I basically picked up that list from Alex that was somewhat fragmented, and there were some notes on, with context that I had no idea of what they were talking about. So my goal tonight is to kind of walk through this list with you all, understand the intent of the planning commission behind these things. Maybe some of these notes were just scribbles from Alex that shouldn't be on this list. And maybe some of these things are major sticking points that we wanna, cut really deep on with a text amendment. So my intent tonight is kind of just to walk through this list and have a discussion with you all. And then I also want to say if there are other possible amendments for you all as a planning commission that you maybe have considered in your own time or discussed amongst each other, this is a great opportunity for discussion on those topics. We have a really light meeting tonight, so this is really the rest of our meeting is just discussing these potential text amendments. So as you guys know, these we're going to package up a handful of text amendments into have just one large public hearing. But these discussion meetings are really important before we get to that public hearing to make sure the commission's on the same page with the planner, make sure that I'm presenting work to you all that's accurate with what your intent of a text amendment is. So based on walking through meeting minutes from the past 6 or 8 months, I have come to the conclusion that it looks like a few of these items may have already been discussed with you, but I want to understand what your level of comfort is with these amendments. There was, in the April Planning Commission packet specifically, there were several amendments presented by Alex, maybe talked about briefly. It was a really big meeting. So I'm not sure if you guys said, good to go, or if maybe Alex just showed them to you and said, hey, chew on these and we'll come back to them again. We're kind of at a stage here where I want to, button up a text amendment and then put it to the side, and button up another text amendment and put it to the side, and then bring them all back for public hearing. So these are the 3 that I think might be ready for public hearing, but I need to hear your take. So we know that the building appearance section, we signed off on that last month. We simplified the section and we created several new tables in there. So 71507 in our general provisions talks about mechanical equipment, and it looked like Alex presented an amendment to you that talked about removing a fence as a possible method of screening around like HVAC units or other large generators that are outside surrounding a building. And then it looked like that another thing that was discussed was all rooftop mechanical equipment must be screened if it's visible from the right-of-way. So do you guys remember seeing those? Do you remember directing Alex to make those or anything like that?
I remember the second one.
Yeah, I don't remember the removal
I don't remember the
fence.
first one.
Okay.
Man, I don't remember that.
What do you guys think? My personal opinion as your planner is that a privacy fence can satisfy the screening of mechanical equipment in the same way that a huge masonry wall would, and sometimes they're even less intensive than a masonry wall. I kind of like vinyl fence as an option. What do you guys think?
Well, I think one of the things we're trying to accomplish here is we're trying to be more business friendly and offering up more opportunities for reduced cost methods of handling some of these issues is very pro-business. But obviously we want to also be able to maintain a high quality methodology of doing some of these things. So I don't remember it being removed fence.
I think the problem was wood fencing. No.
Okay.
Wood fencing or the chain link? Chain link, I think looks cheap.
On the
Yeah.
top of the roof, the wood fencing looks weird.
Okay.
Oh,
Yes.
okay.
I
The
think
roof,
that might
yes,
have
on the
been the
roof, we
intent.
talked about that looking not
Right.
aesthetically pleasing.
Not fitting. So maybe
Yeah.
that was the intent, was that we were gonna make sure that all rooftop equipment is screened, but we're not gonna include a fence on the rooftop, but the fence could still be good for ground-mounted HVAC units and things like that. Okay.
But you might want to specify what type of fencing.
Oh, absolutely, yeah, yep. Okay, so.
Mr. Atwood?
Yeah, we have well, it's not there, no, the business isn't there now, but it had rooftop units and it had plastic vinyl fencing, and a lot of it's blown over.
Where's that at?
440 Court, is it Court Street?
The foundry.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I don't know if there's a way to, if it does blow over, like
They're
enforce
not,
that?
did you say they're not there? Is it?
It's
is it-
blown,
No, but the business
The
is
business
still,
isn't there, but the,
is that what
it blew over a
maybe-
while ago.
Maybe might have happened is when the business left it fell?
No, it was before they closed.
That would
Do
be
we
a
need language?
reason why they closed.
Do we need language to maintain rooftop screening? Or,
I-
or mechanical screening?
And to even define what it is, I mean, what type of screening are we gonna allow?
So a lot of
on
times we
rooftop?
would just call it either so in the zoning ordinance, there is specifically defined fences. There's a section for required fences, and then there's a section for non-required fences. So like a fence in residential that's not required for a screening fence or something like that, people might have more flexibility in materials and size versus if someone chooses a fence as their method of screening, then we have, it's gotta be 6 feet tall, it's gotta be privacy, it can't be, there's more restrictive on the materials that are allowed in required versus non-required fencing. So this would be a required fence for screening mechanical equipment, and our standards are pretty sharp. Tall fence, complete privacy screen, and then a shorter list of materials allowed.
Which allows wood.
It does allow wood right now, well, it allows but if it's a full privacy, right, yeah.
Didn't we have a discussion about this, now that it strikes my mind, about it being a cinder block in the block one? We had a pretty lengthy discussion about that one meeting, I thought.
The
I think it had to
mechanical?
Yeah, no, I'm sorry, never mind, that was trash.
Guys, that was
That's
about the
right,
garbage
that's
right.
enclosures.
So I actually do not recall that first bullet point. Then.
Okay. Yeah, so I think the consensus of the commission is for rooftop equipment, fence is not an option. For ground mounted equipment, fences are an option, but not wood.
Or chain link with.
Or chain link, right. Yeah, okay, that's very helpful. Okay. All right, moving right along. Signage, it also looked like at that April Planning Commission meeting, there was some stuff in that meeting packet specifically amending our sign section. One of those things was eliminating permit requirements for banner and flag signs. So if someone wanted to put up a banner or a flag sign, they wouldn't have to come and get a permit. However, we still have standards. We still have standards in the ordinance that say a banner sign has to be this size, a flag sign has to be this size. So if we found one that was blatantly or just non-compliant, period, we could still, hold a hat on something and do some code enforcement. We happy with that one? Easy signs.
The obvious downside with this is it makes it hard for code enforcement, because you're never gonna know when the sign went up. So if there's a time frame where it has to come down, you don't know when it went up. Maybe it's easier, better to say, well, you still have to get a permit, permit's free or something like that.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Isn't that true? Like when somebody gets a garage sale sign, they can actually, it's free, they just still have to get the permit.
Yeah, I think so.
I think that's true for that.
And,
We have those for a handful of.
and I don't know if there is a number of banner and flag signs permitted per property, but we have some business properties that, it's a strip mall with 20 businesses in it. Are we gonna have 20 flag signs out now?
Right.
I think they're allowed one per street side. Corner, they can have two, only allowed one.
Even with a big strip mall on a corner? With 20 businesses in it?
No. Yeah, they could probably have one per business.
There could be a lot of flags.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, and it's a huge traffic hazard, right? And
Yeah.
it doesn't look too nice either. So maybe we need to make sure that we have a limit on.
Well, and just my experience is, these businesses are not gonna put out a banner or flag sign saying, come to Joe's business, right? They're gonna put out 30 of them, and I'll say, open, 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 open.
Think of a car dealership.
Yeah, exactly, so it's gonna look kind of trashy either way.
So I'll do some research and we can see if we can find a happy medium there. So we want to do, discounted or free permits altogether for those kind of signs. And then we want to take some special attention to quantity. Okay, and then a few things from our temporary sign section. So large freestanding signs was one thing that was present in our, where am I at here? Here we go. So here, this is called our temporary sign regulation table. So for non-permanent signs in the city, they would basically all have to fall under one of these categories. So we've got garage sale signs in residential, small temporary signs in residential districts, and then we've got banners and pennants. So maybe that removal that I just spoke to for banners was actually speaking to this temporary sign, maybe not a permanent sign. The building official must be securely attached to the building or structure, may be erected 2 calendar days a year. Because I don't know if we allow banner signs as permanent signs, I don't think we do.
And Ben, not to throw a grenade into this,
Yeah.
but I'm pretty sure some of these violate Reed versus Gilbert.
They sure do. Yeah, they sure do. Yeah, they, yeah, and that's why you don't see us having any regulations specifically for political signage in here at all, right?
Yeah.
So we had a lot of questions about that last election cycle. They asked the planning and zoning department, Ben, what can I tell people when they call me and say, what kind of political signs can I put up? And honestly, at this point, there's not a great answer other than what's on this table. And this table doesn't really have much. By the way, I mean, you can't just specify political signs. That's in violation of Reed versus Gilbert. You can't, regulate sign content.
I also
So-
don't think you can say garage sale signs, because that's the content of the sign you're
That's
putting
a
up.
good point. Yeah.
I know a lot of communities, including my previous one, just allowed a certain number of certain size signs on residential properties,
Right.
which could then cover garage sales or political signs or whatever.
Right. Kind of like what we already got there, small temporary signs.
Yeah.
I like that.
But
Okay.
how do you define then? If you don't have, if you do it that way, then how do you define like the duration of the sign being put up and taken down?
Well, and maybe that's a question of, do we want to do that? If you want to put out your, presidential campaign sign and leave it there all year, do we want to tell them they can and can't do that? Political
That's
speech.
happening anyways. I just don't,
It's a good point.
it comes down to enforcement because they're everywhere, so.
Right.
If
So,
they don't
right,
enforce it, it isn't a rule, I guess.
Well, or we could enforce it, but you can imagine that hitting the front page of every newspaper in Michigan.
Yes.
and that's kind of what I talked about with our clerk about political signs, is that we could enforce this to the letter of the law, but it would be widely known what we were doing if we were going around taking down political signs. I think that might have happened in another Lapeer County community sometime in the.
So the cost then becomes, well, if somebody wants to put out, Joe's business sign in their residential front yard, we're probably not gonna take that down either. Because now you have to look at the content of the sign before you can enforce it.
There you go.
You can just imagine we're gonna just be a community of signs. You can put whatever sign up you want.
So this language is currently present, is what I'll say, right? And we're not, I don't think we have an abnormal amount of, temporary or semi-permanent signs in our residential districts. So I hope that making a change to the section won't kick a lot more temporary signs.
Right.
Yeah. So I agree with Mike. We should definitely delete this line here that talks about specifically garage sale signs. This section here seems to encompass garage sale signs. However, we probably want to talk about this. This current language says, so for small temporary signs in residential, the sign must be removed within 14 days. That's speaking
That's
specifically
because
to.
specifically it's for sale
For
signs,
rent,
for people
for sale
selling
signs,
property.
okay. So we should probably have a standard, since we're on the temporary sign, portion here, we should probably have, like this one says shall be erected no more than 10 business days before and after it's talking about garage sales, but, do we wanna have a timestamp in there? I kind of think we do.
I think we kind of do, don't we?
Well, it's especially in a commercial district, because
Mm-hmm.
they're gonna be the ones much more interested in putting signage out.
Right, so there's, what do we got there? So here, moving down the chart just a little bit, temporary wall signs in office, our commercial districts, and industrial. 16 square feet in size, and may be erected for a maximum of 30 consecutive days every 6 months.
Commissioner Patterson?
Yeah, I'm gonna bounce back to the residential signs. Why don't can we put something in that makes those signs be maintained like we do in the commercial district? If it gets in bad shape or it's falling down, it's gotta be removed.
It's gotta come down. I like that.
Well, it probably should just be all signs everywhere
All
all the
signs.
time.
Right, but if,
So we'll make sure that maintenance, because Mike's right, we have that for permanent, I know that we do. But we'll make sure that encompasses all signs. I'm not sure if it encompasses temporary signs right now.
There is, in this section 71703, it does say damaged signs, any temporary sign found by the building official to be torn, damaged, or unsafe condition shall be removed by the owner within 3 days after receipt of the notice.
Yes.
It's
Nice. Okay, very good.
I'm not sure that necessarily encompasses like a sign that's just fallen down with the wind.
Mm-hmm.
It's talking about damage signs. One of my pet peeves are those stupid banner signs that, you know, they go kittywampus after the first, you know, storm that blows through.
Right. I like that. So maybe beef up that section right there to include a little bit more than just a damaged sign. A sign in disrepair, a sign not installed due to manufacturer's specifications, even though it's a little political sign.
I think there is another section about maintenance somewhere in there.
Specifically for temp, yeah.
For
For
signs
all,
in general.
yeah, okay, we'll make sure. Okay, let's bounce back to. Yeah, I think that Alex remove large freestanding signs from temporary sign regulation table. Let me just see that real quick. Large freestanding signs. It's a pretty big sign. Do you guys remember wanting to get rid of this one specifically, talking about large freestanding temporary signs in, looks like multifamily, office, commercial, industrial? Do you remember? Haven't chatted about Alex?
We never got to discussion on signs.
Okay, understood.
Once we got to signs in that meeting, it was like, okay, here it is, look it over,
Okay.
come back next time with your comments. So the commission didn't hold a lot of discussion on signs at previous
At that
meetings.
April meeting, yeah, thank you very much. So I would say, I think this standard is fine to keep. The standard has a nice time, maybe erected for 6 months in any 1 year. Maybe we decrease that amount of time. That's getting kind of close to permanent in my
Were
opinion.
there any notes as to why this was crossed out? No.
It was mostly just, it was crossed off, and then it was included in a packet, and it was a draft text amendment that showed it as crossed out. And then the meeting minutes were exactly like Kim just said. It looked like might have had some discussion on the mechanical equipment points, but then no discussion on the sign stuff.
Okay.
So I think, let's not overcomplicate it. If we don't see a problem with the standard, let's just keep it in, is my opinion.
Well, and the commission, if they want, can set the permit rate for that to be exceptionally high, so it's not abused.
Yeah. They absolutely could. Okay, large temp signs are gonna stay. Okay. This is a very procedural one that our building department has asked us to add. So for monument signs, it wasn't clear when measuring the height of a monument sign. Most times when a monument sign is installed, there's a base of the sign that looks completely different from the rest of the sign, right? So it's a concrete base or some other, sort of approved material base. And then you've got the sign itself, but the base kind of sits here and then the sign sits like this around it. And they were having trouble in the building department because people were submitting some applications for some pretty tall monument signs that were not including the base of the sign in the total height of the sign.
That's commonly understood.
I think so too. Yeah.
Do we need to add language about the surrounding land to the area surrounding the base? Because I've seen it also where they try to play this game of, oh, we're gonna build a little hill here before I put my sign.
Or a depression or something. Man, I don't think so now, but maybe in the future.
Or at least have a common understanding that the term base includes the
That
land.
right, includes the surrounding topography or something like that, or the surrounding topography can't be abnormal to the area for the sign or something like that. Okay. Window signs, remove size limitations. This would be a great one for us to do. Very business friendly, easy signs. So window signs were already signs that you did not have to get a permit for, but we did, like I said, for banner and flag signs, we still had some requirements that said, only 10 or 20% of the window space can be covered by window signs. So I like this one because it can give businesses the option. If they want to carpet their window in some signs, they can. If they want to allow everybody to see in transparency in their windows, then they also can do that. What do you guys think about that window sign one?
It's also very friendly for small businesses and encourages businesses, new businesses to have windows. But we should have a provision that requires that the entrance door be transparent.
Yeah,
I think that's actually in there somewhere, I
it is.
saw that.
yeah, we'll make sure it's on there.
Yeah, all entry doors shall remain clear of all signs for public safety.
Doors.
Yeah, but I would think that the number one place where small businesses think to put signage is in their front window.
I would hope so.
Right. Okay, and the last one, this was a brand new section that Alex introduced, and it's called the substitution clause for signage. And it says, the owner of any sign which is otherwise allowed by this chapter may substitute non-commercial speech in lieu of any other commercial speech or non-commercial speech. This substitution of copy may be made without any additional approvals or permitting. The purpose of this provision is to prevent any inadvertent favoring of commercial speech over non-commercial speech, or favoring of any particular non-commercial speech over any other non-commercial speech. Gets a little wordy. This provision prevails over any more specific provision to the contrary.
Does it just mean you can put whatever you want in the window, the content? Because you don't want to discriminate, so anybody can put whatever they want in the window, even if it's not
Probably.
commercial based.
I think this is a solution for something that's not a problem.
Yeah, I think so.
Is this Alex just showing us how smart he is?
This might have been a
Wording.
Reed versus
Right.
Gilbert thing, trying to think of Reed versus
Simplify that
Gilbert.
for me.
State law. And
Yeah.
then I
What
think
you want
people would
to
want to put commercial based advertising in their window to sell their.
Well, but even if, okay, so let's say you're a cute little doodad shop and you're gonna put one of those live, laugh, love signs in your front, you know, to show that you've got that sign for sale. That's not really commercial speech. I don't think it's really necessary.
I don't think we need it. Okay, it's gone. Okay, and these are ones that we definitely need more discussion on, that were on Alex's list, that I'm not really sure where we take them from here, so we'll see if these are problems, and we'll address them if we feel necessary. So temporary signs and maximum size, that was one thing that was on his list. And I think maybe he was getting at that, you know, all temporary signs in the city should have a blanket requirement for maximum size. I don't really think that's a good idea, because we have lots of different types of temporary signs like we just described. We've got those in residential and we've got the commercial ones, and so I actually really like this table, because it specifies, you know, we definitely have to clean this one up for content neutrality, but I kind of like that it specifies some different types of signs and then has different requirements for those different types of signs.
So doesn't the table specify maximum size for
Yeah.
each? Then what are we adding?
I know. I think that there was a suggestion of maybe making more of a blanket of all temporary signs can be this size and that's it, period. But I think we do well with this specificity in this table. So temporary signs allow for most temporary signs without a permit. That was on this list too. What do we think about allowing temporary signs? So there'd still be requirements that need to be upheld, but people can just put them up. What do you guys think?
Well, like I was saying earlier, from a residential perspective, I don't think anybody wants to wade into the, you know, my guy should be elected, your guy shouldn't take speech. It might be at the cost of somebody, you know, using their property for commercial speech. There might be a way to handle that. Maybe you can only put signage for commercial establishment on the same property or something like that. But as far as commercial, I mean, businesses tend to take a mile if you give them an inch. I would be a little afraid that if we say no permits for temporary signs, that we're just gonna be covered in temporary signs all the time.
All the time, yeah.
I think we wanna make it easier for them to put temporary signs out,
Right.
but there's maybe a step too far there.
Maybe we go free permits for temporary signs?
Yeah, that would be, I think, a commission's decision.
Yeah, okay.
I think we should have a permit.
Mm-hmm.
Even if they decide to do it for free, that's fine, but I think the permit should be there.
Key permit. Okay. Okay, get to some juicier stuff now. Business closure signage, that's all that was written on the sheet, and it was in quotation marks, and I'm assuming that this is just speaking to, there's clauses in other communities that speak to if a business completely goes out and the site is completely vacant for about a year, I think most communities have it as a year, then the signage needs to come down within a year of that business being closed and gone out of town.
Yeah, I think that's what we were talking about.
Mm-hmm. So it's not, so I think about, you know, in Lapeer, we obviously outlawed pole signs several years ago, right? No more new pole signs in Lapeer. But the pole signs that we do have in Lapeer are ones that are grandfathered in, right, that were built long ago, and those will change content every once in a while as, you know, I think about that huge Arby's pole sign on 24. When
Yes.
Arby's came in for a huge sign package, at first they wanted to remove that sign, and then somebody
Yeah.
smarter understood that, hey, this sign has a lot of value because we're never gonna get a new one up here, so
Yep.
we're gonna keep it up.
I remember
So this would not necessarily mean that the sign structure has to come down. But like if you think about a tall pole sign with a square on top, they can remove the content of that sign. And then the sign cabinet stays.
Of course, some signs can look really, really bad too if you take the, what do you call it, the sign face off and now you just see the empty cabinet.
Uh-huh.
It might be a nice power to have within the ordinance that the city could enforce.
Mm-hmm. So not necessarily a time limit on it, but.
Well, I think you probably need some sort of time limit so that you have the authority within the ordinance to say, hey, it's been a year.
Right, we want that one down. Yeah, so we could say something like as determined by the building official, or. Has to come down. Okay.
And of course, chasing down a business that's been out of business for a year to remove their signage.
Yeah. Okay, these are two things that you know, this is a common practice in planning. If you're receiving variance requests against a specific standard, there's probably a point that should be discussed to see if a text amendment should be done to stop all these variance requests from coming in. So these are two. So we've had multiple variance requests over the last 2 years or so for canopy signage, specifically on gas station canopies, and the area of signage that's allowed on those canopies. So currently our standard says individual letters shall not be larger than 15 inches from top to bottom. We had someone from Marathon on Lake Nipissing submit a request to do 48-inch tall signage on their gas station canopy, and I, you know, tried to tell them, like, look, you're asking for triple. You're asking for triple what's allowed, like, they're probably gonna laugh you out of the room. But he said, this is a procedure that Marathon is telling me to take, I have to go for a variance, and if it gets denied, then it gets denied, but I have to try for it before we change our size of the signage. So 48's crazy, in my opinion. 48, 2 feet tall sign on the gas station canopy, I think you can achieve it with a lot smaller. But I also think that 15 inches is probably a little bit too small. My suggestion is that we increase it to either 20 or 24 inches.
I think when I was on the zoning board of appeals, I think we talked about that 20, I thought it was either 20 or maybe 22 inches. I think we talked about that number as being more reasonable.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know why, but I just remember that number.
Does anyone really pay attention to the signage on the
do.
canopies at the gas station though?
Yes.
With the amount of really huge bright lights that they put in there?
I don't know, I think that the letters would be really, are you saying that it doesn't matter that it's only 15 inches? Like, who cares if they can only do 15 inches because nobody notices it?
No, I'm saying it's 20 feet in the air, you got, you know, miniature suns pointing, you know, lights right into your eyes. I guess the difference between 15 and 20 inches is nothing at that height.
Probably not.
One of the requests.
48 is though.
Yeah. What have the requests been? I mean, have you had a chance to look at the actual variance request and see what inches we're talking about? Did they
Besides
ask
that
20?
one, usually up to 2 feet.
Usually up to 2 feet. Yeah, that one was extreme. Most of them are going for 24, I'd say.
So maybe 24 could be appropriate unless it's in front of her house and it could be 48 inches.
Oh, it's a
Write
rough
that,
crowd.
write that in the ordinance.
I think 24 is more than appropriate, and if nobody else sees a problem with it,
I think
it's
24
easy.
is fine.
Yeah,
It's
right,
fine.
and hopefully they can eat that 24 and they don't ask for variances anymore, but people will still ask for variances always, and that's what they should do if they feel the need. So wall signs, area allowed, so this is one that I've gone back and forth in. I've reviewed and approved just about every sign permit in the city of Lapeer for about the last 2 years. And these sign companies cannot understand this standard. 10%, so the area allowed for wall signs. So our calculation to determine the area allowed for wall signage on a site is you take the front face of a facade, so front yard, front lot line, you take whatever face, is in that front yard, and you say, okay, the total area of this face is what, 100 square feet for sake of example. And then you say, okay, well, 10% of that front face is your number of allowed signage. But we also have this is unnecessary, so the standard goes 10% of front face or 3 square feet for each lineal feet of building frontage, and then it ends up saying whichever is lower. We never end up using this 3 square feet. It's always the 10% is lower than the 3 square feet of building frontage. And what it comes out to is most commercial sites in the city of Lapeer have about 50 to 80 or 90 square feet of wall signage allowed. But what's important to remember is you take the front face area, and then that number of wall signage allowed is for the entire building surrounding it.
I think this came up when we were dealing with Harbor Freight on Genesee. I remember this particular provision being talked about.
But it's or tenant space for a multi-tenant.
Ben, is there a maximum size, this is a wall sign, so is there a maximum size for the wall sign?
We don't have a cutoff, and frankly, I've never seen anybody get over 100.
So in my previous community, it was almost identical. It was 10% of front facade, and you're right, they can't seem to understand that language. It makes sense to me. We even had a little graph on our sheet showing exactly what I meant. It was 1 square foot per each lineal running foot of the building frontage. You could have the greater of the two, and it was a maximum of 100 square feet per side of the building, and then you could only put signage on the side of the building that was within 200 foot of an adjacent road. So you couldn't put it on the back of the building, but if you had like 2 corners, you could put it on each side.
On north and south, yeah.
If we're trying to be business friendly, do we really want to say you get the smaller sign? I mean, sign is the lifeblood of these businesses. I just don't see where we're losing by saying you could have the larger of the two, or you could have, up to 100 square feet or whatever it is. And I'm not trying to lead the discussion, I'm just trying to give you ideas of, so I haven't heard from this side of the table. What do you guys think?
You're doing a very good job describing it.
Oh, you should.
I think it's important to remember that I like increasing our wall sign area because we don't allow pole signs, right? So the sign options are a little bit different for the commercial businesses up and down 24 than they would be in Metamora, or than they would be in other places up and down 24. So that's my thought, is we could allow a little bit more area in wall signage.
And subconsciously, maybe they'll put in bigger buildings with bigger businesses if we say your wall sign is bigger.
Okay.
You never know.
Okay, right.
You never know.
Hey, maybe we can get that Target we always wanted, or that Costco we always wanted.
Yes, Costco would be
Trader
nice.
Joe's.
Hey, hold on, are we leaving that one? Did we tell them what we wanted?
No.
No, we didn't, no. Sorry, I didn't put it there.
I mean, is the board with me that we want to allow bigger signage?
I have no deference. I
I'm
don't care
very-
honestly either way.
In the middle, and that doesn't affect me.
Literally not very passionate about
Yeah.
this portion.
Double that
Sorry.
to 20.
If I'm the one who has to hold the passion for this, we're in dire straits, friends.
I'm just telling you.
I guess I'd like to see some common measurements, because I think 3 square feet's a little too much. I think you're gonna max out. Because it doesn't take much to have a 100-foot wide building.
No, it doesn't.
But
Now,
it's whichever is the lesser.
Right.
Well, but I'm saying I wanna change it to allow bigger. So maybe we change it to 10% of front facade, 1 or 1.5 square foot per living running foot, and the larger of the two measurements, up to maximum X.
Right, and then maybe we put that cap at like 120 would probably be my recommendation.
And another thing we allowed, because it only got used once in the 7 years I was there, was you could also, it was either a special land use or an appeal up to another standard height,
Okay.
like 200 square feet or something like that.
Mhm.
That was used on the hotel. The only hotel was like a 5-story building.
Mhm. I like that a lot because like we just heard about Harbor Freight, some buildings, I've seen standards in some communities for wall signs that say the further a building is set back from the road, you increase the amount of signage that you're allowed, because obviously if a grocery store is way set back from the road, you can't see their wall signage from the road.
Yeah.
So they're allowed then a little bit bigger based on how far set back they are off their front lot line.
And I think that makes sense.
That makes sense.
Mhm.
Well, do we want to have that be the standard, or do we just want to say, look, you can appeal for up to 200 square feet if you have some kind of limiting factor?
Mhm.
And it's upon them to show what their limiting factor is.
I'm trying to visual, I'm not a visual person, my husband will tell you this. I'm trying to visualize what, like, on a building, like a standard sized building, what 100 square feet wall sign would be. I'm like, is that gonna be really like in your face?
10 feet
or-
by 10 feet.
Well, yeah, but-
Visualize it.
Well, right, but you're also talking about lineal feet too, right? You're not talking about a square box necessarily.
I guess you could have a sign that's 1 foot tall and 100 feet wide.
Right.
You could.
You
You
could.
seriously could, yeah.
But I'll tell you what, having reviewed tons of
Yeah.
wall sign applications, they're surprisingly tall and don't look that big on the wall.
Mhm.
Like, you can have 3 or 4 foot tall letter and it doesn't look that big.
Mhm.
And frankly, a 25-foot wide sign is not that big either, especially on a huge building.
We don't have a limit of number of wall signs. What our limit is the area allowed. So we say, calculate your area allowed, let's say it's 90. So technically speaking, you could have 9 1 by 9 signs, right, on your
Yeah.
building.
Yeah.
So I think that's another reason to say that we should increase the size, is because it's total size. I kind of like what Mike said about the appeal, because then that can kind of be a blanket, right? So the parcels that are more setback and the parcels that have bigger buildings can all kind of funnel into that appeal, if they feel it necessary.
Do me a favor though, we need to have some kind of language about what appeal
Oh, yeah.
reasons are gonna be, because otherwise, they're all gonna ask for an appeal,
Mm-hmm.
because they just want a bigger sign.
Right, something like you need to meet a standard.
Standards, yeah.
Right. Yeah, okay. Okay, and this, remember, right, this is just discussion, so I could bring you some language and we could kill it from there, but this is just discussion to get us started on potential text amendments, and then bring you the text amendments, and then go from there. Okay, try and keep moving along here. Ooh, that's the wrong one. Okay, landscaping. So this should be a pretty easy one. I had a note on my text amendment notes there that talked about tree removal. So you'll see in your landscaping section that's included in the packet right now, replacement of removed trees is letter C, and that's the second page of that landscaping section there in the packet. And we get very specific into removed trees between 8 and 18 caliber inches shall be replaced at a rate of 50% of the total diameter breast height. Removed trees greater than 18 caliber inches shall be replaced at a rate of 75% of the total diameter breast height. Alec, I think I like where Alex was going here. He suggested changing to more of a 1-to-1 removal replacement, but this is within certain caliber range. So without getting too big, obviously, you see these huge trees that have been alive for 100 or more years, those are obviously some very special trees. So we should say for very large caliber sizes outside of that range, you have to replant 2 or 3 trees to replace those jumbo trees.
Yeah, I like that idea.
They have to be of a certain caliber size too, so they can't just replace 2 small trees for the biggest tree in the city, right? It has to be 2 or 3 very large trees.
So this is, look, we all like trees. This is generally viewed as being anti-business because it's expensive to keep trees It takes a lot of effort and work to identify the trees. I'm not taking an opinion one way or the other, but, you know, a lot of the communities are just saying, hey, look, at the end of the day, we really don't care if you save any of the trees on site, you just have to meet these minimum requirements at the end of the day.
For installation of new stuff.
So you could literally clear cut everything and then just come in and put in, you know, 10 trees or whatever the minimum requirement is. I mean, this is great for saving older trees, but it is a lot of extra work.
Mhm.
I don't know, I don't think that's getting anti-business. I think this
Well,
is
but more
easier.
costly.
Yeah, but I mean, I like the idea of like a one-to-one. I mean, obviously, if they want to clear all of them, that's one for one. They've got to replace all those. So
Mhm.
I think that's pretty easy to understand. I don't think there's anything wrong with the way that it's proposed here.
Mhm.
Josh, you had a question?
Yeah,
More
I
comment?
did. Trying to reset my thought. Is this like commercial, like, when they
Yes.
cleared out,
Yeah.
where the new,
Popeyes.
what's that?
Popeyes.
Popeyes, yeah,
Mhm.
so they would, I mean, that was an older site, right, so the trees are probably bigger.
Lots of trees, yeah.
I'm just trying to think of how that would.
Well, then they have to meet our standard, that what we approved on their site,
Mhm.
Right.
which they have.
They did a whole tree
Yeah.
survey and
And they
only
did
like
that?
23 were to remain, I looked at it.
Okay.
Because I was like, holy cow, are they
Right.
meeting their tree survey? And I
Right,
looked
that's what I was
at it.
thinking, like, oh my
I
gosh.
pulled it out and looked at it, and
Yeah.
yeah, only 23 were scheduled on the tree survey to remain. Mainly around the outer edges.
Mhm.
Is there specifications on what type of tree they could be?
We do have lists of permitted plant materials, and then it breaks it down to, I'm gonna butcher this name, Delicarius trees, how do you say that word?
Deciduous?
Deciduous.
Wow, that is,
Yeah. Silly, man. Silly.
I would never remember that.
Deciduous and evergreen trees, so we totally break them down into those classifications, and then we have a list of permitted.
Coniferous. Coniferous.
Coniferous.
Not evergreen, deciduous and coniferous.
Oh,
On third grade
okay.
bioscience,
Look at
no?
Ben, went to U of M, doesn't know the difference.
Sorry, I was just gonna say, what about ginkgo bilbao trees? I hope that's in the standards for
I
something
don't
we
think
don't
it's
allow.
in there.
For those who don't know, they have the most horrible seed pods that stink
Oh.
and are sticky and they get all over your pavement. They're gross.
I would hope that's in prohibited trees.
Yeah.
So if it's a prohibited tree to begin with and they pull it, they don't have to replace that, correct?
Correct.
Okay, we're just
Correct.
talking about allowed, like the trees that we allow.
Right.
I
Okay.
don't think ginkgos are native to Michigan. I think it's just one of those really cheap trees that they can get, you know, to place in a landscaping
Uh-huh.
place. Goodness, I hope they're not native.
I don't know, I think actually they are the ones that line up, along Mansfield Drive. I think there's a lot of ginkgo trees, so there must have been a sale going on there, so.
Yeah.
City put them in.
Oh, okay.
Well, that was a mistake.
Yeah, it was.
Should have listened to Pattison over here.
I wasn't here
We-
yet.
okay.
So we'll go with this caliber size change, but then we're also gonna add, some specific that talks about if you remove an evergreen tree, you have to put back an evergreen tree here.
So, Ben, forgive me for asking this
Yeah.
question. It uses the word caliber twice. Don't they mean caliper, Pete?
Yeah, that is absolutely what is intended by that.
Okay. Because caliber is the size of a, you know, rifle barrel.
Yeah, but it's caliper, I'm sorry.
Caliper is the measuring tool for the number of inches of width of the tree.
Yeah, right, the ball.
It's caliper in the text,
Okay.
not in the slide.
Right. So, another point that was in Alex's notes was to increase incentives to keep existing trees on site. And you know, we actually already have a big old section, right after that replacement of removed trees section, we've got letter D, it's called incentives to preserve existing trees. And then, basically, if they preserve more trees than they're shaved off, their required count of new trees to be installed on the site to meet our landscaping requirements. seems harmless to me, in my opinion.
That's great,
Mhm.
actually.
Yeah, okay, great. So our thought was to maybe we expand on it a little bit more to make it even better for existing trees to be kept more inside. And then, just real quick, want to have a general discussion about landscaping standards in the city. So, we have ran into a few sites where the amount of required landscaping is pretty extreme. And one example of that is the Lyric Mall parking lot. I think Paul O'Meara from Rowe did a draft design of, if the city was to redo this parking lot, what would it look like? What landscaping would be required? So Paul asked myself to look up in our ordinance, okay, how many trees and how many shrubs would actually be required to be installed if we went upon ourselves to redo this parking lot, bring it into landscaping compliance, bring it into parking lot compliance, do our double line striping, all that fun stuff. And Alex described it as it would look like a forest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was
And
tremendously bad.
the reason why is because that parking lot checked about every single box that we have in our landscaping standards. So landscaping is required around any parking lot in the city. That's number one. Number two is one tree is required to be installed for every 8 spaces in a parking lot. And then number three is that's a buffer zone, so that's a commercial parcel that buffers up to residential, so there are buffer zone requirements that need to be satisfied there. So a simple fix to that, I think, is we can be a little bit more direct in saying that you can allow one tree to satisfy multiple standards.
Yeah, that's what makes more sense.
Right. So that's an easy change. But then I also feel like another easy change, instead of getting into the weeds of our landscaping chapter and changing all of changing all of the 40 linear feet means 1 evergreen and 6 shrubs, instead of getting into the weeds about that, I kind of like if we just expand on landscaping waivers and say that when specific standards are satisfied, an applicant can come to us and say, look, you guys are requiring a crazy amount of trees, I'm meeting the intent of this section by having good landscaping on the site, and here's why I think I should get this waiver because I meet these standards. What do you guys think about?
Say 1 tree and 6 shrubs per 40 feet.
That is one of our buffer zone standards, yeah. 1 large tree and then 6 shrubs per, it's either 30 or 40.
So the shrubs one kills me. My previous community was 1 tree and 2 shrubs per 50 foot.
50, yeah.
I mean, you start having 6 shrubs, you're gonna have shrub mania.
The bees would be crazy, the bugs would be crazy.
So what would the standards be for, I guess, a reduction? If we meet the standards where we're meeting the intent, how do you describe intent?
Right, I mean, I don't want this to be like a vague thing where they can say,
Right.
well, you could be really vague and they could just say whatever and you could have really inconsistent, like, applications to which which ones you're approving and which ones you're not. I think it needs to be more specific if we're gonna have standards to apply that to.
Rather than just saying the intent of this chapter is met.
Yeah,
Say
that's
something
way
pretty
too
more
vague.
specific. Yeah, it sure is. And then that's absolutely something that I think should stay with the planning commission. I'll propose a waiver in just a second that I think should be administrative. This landscaping waiver, I think, needs to stay at the planning commission because, like you just said, Catherine, they'd be coming in hot to our office if we allowed. Yeah, right.
Right, when they know they don't have, they could just say whatever to
Right.
get rid of the landscaping
Yeah, I told
requirement.
them I don't want that in
I was
the-
gonna-
Yeah.
I don't want that.
That'd be
in the
crazy.
planning
And same with
department.
parking, we don't
Yeah,
want to
right.
deal with parking waivers in the planning department, so, okay. Stay with PC and very specific standards to satisfy a landscaping waiver. Okay, parking, kind of in a similar vein. So there's lots of parking, lots of sites are constrained by, there's too much parking that needs to be installed. This is a big kick around kind of planning and zoning in a lot of different communities around America, is they're doing away with parking requirements, period. I don't know if that's something that we should do in the city of Lapeer, but I think 2 things we could do is we could allow, we already have the option for the planning commission to issue a deferment from parking standards, right? So if you can show me that I don't need to have the 50 required, I only need to have 30, and here's traffic counts, and here's business, you know, the amount of counts that, of vehicles that I know are gonna actually drive into my lot each day, park on site, or maybe I have a drive-through, that means that people don't need to park at my space. Those could all be possible standards that could, you know, allow an applicant to justify, hey, I don't need to have this much parking, I'd love a waiver, or I'd love for my parking number to be decreased. We currently already have a good deferment section. I honestly think it just needs to be moved, and it needs to be directly under, it's kind of buried in our parking section right now. I think it needs to be directly underneath the table. We've got that big 2 or 3 page table that says bank has this many parking spaces for this amount of square foot of usable floor area. I think it needs to be right under that table that says you can request a deferment from the planning commission if you meet these standards, and maybe just a little bit easier to find.
So Ben, deferment's easy, because under deferment, you have to identify where the spots would go if you needed them in the future, but what about waiver? Again, just for my little community, the standard for like 36 parking spaces, it was a Jimmy John's. Jimmy John's comes and says, well, every other one we have is like 22 parking spaces, why do you need 36?
Sure thing, yeah.
And so we changed the ordinance to say, you know, the applicant can show by good cause, whatever,
Yeah.
for a waiver, so that they just didn't have to do it at all.
Can we separate it out by like the zone, well, because like downtown here, like I can tell you on the south side of Nipissing, there's not enough parking. It's, you have to like scramble to find a parking spot that's available. So there's never enough parking, but, so that's like would be the CBD, you know. But out in maybe like more of a business district,
good
like
point.
out, you know,
Right.
off of 24, maybe it's not a big deal and you can
I
have
think
those
you're
waivers. So can you differentiate like which zone that you can have that more liberal waiver?
I think we can. I don't see why
Okay.
not.
Here's a question for you though, in the downtown, where are you gonna put more parking?
Right, so in downtown,
Right,
in
but you would want to be
CBD,
more, I think, more restrictive in not granting those waivers because there's already not enough space as it is.
So you wanna tell a successful business that's gonna bring in a lot of customers, sorry, we don't want you here because you're gonna bring in a lot of customers who are gonna use parking spaces?
Well, I guess the
CBD is
question
something.
is, if I'm a customer, where am I gonna park?
There's like 1,000 parking spaces in the downtown. The fact that they wanna park within 2 inches of the front door of the place they wanna go to,
Oh, no, I walk a long ways to get where I need to go because there's no parking.
we've done parking studies and
There's no parking.
and the average is something like 60% full ever.
Oh,
So
you're
apart from
not,
the pier days and bike nights.
no. If you go Monday through Friday on the south, on the
south
south side,
But not
there
that
is
far.
no parking. There's no parking.
Do you guys remember this came up after COVID?
Yes.
Because a lot of the businesses, the restaurants put seating outside. So we had to decide whether we were gonna hold them to that requirement of,
I do
you
remember
added
that.
seats.
I do remember that.
You're right, I think my statement at that time was, we should want it to be full. We should want it to be, like, you know, to penalize them.
Shouldn't this be a customer-driven problem then? I mean, I don't wanna say to a business, you're successful, therefore we don't want you.
Yeah.
If a business is gonna have a bunch of people coming in and it's worthy to the customer to find a parking space, that's on the customer. I mean,
If you go to Lake Orion, it's a prime example. They don't have enough parking down there. But it draws you down there because there isn't enough parking, so you feel like,
exclusive.
yeah,
Yeah.
it really does. And I mean, they have very tight constraints in that downtown, much more than we have here. And I've had to park in outrageous spots there, and I kind of go, oh, we got one. So I don't look at
That's
this as
where I
negative.
keep going and
I
I
don't
go
look
like
at it as a
somewhere
negative.
else.
well, and so you're a prime
Yeah.
example of it working then. You don't care enough about that business to park far away to walk to it.
Oh, I'm not saying I'm not gonna have to walk, I still walk, it's just that, I don't know. I just am saying that I think there's not enough parking. Cause if you've got,
So do we
Right.
wanna tell businesses, you come in, you're gonna have to build a new parking structure because now we have to go up and there's no further horizontal space?
I think, I'm not saying we build structures, I'm saying that we are careful in how we grant the waivers. I think that we could potentially put it in areas that it makes sense. Like, I remember there was a particular issue with, I don't know if it was with the zoning board of appeals, but with the old where Marshall's is at now. And you got the section down by, what's the grocery store?
Aldi's,
Aldi's, that whole section, and there was an argument over how many parking spaces. So is there a way to grant it there, because there's not a lot of foot traffic, there's not a lot, I think it makes more sense there. But where you're in a more concentrated area, in a downtown area, I don't know. I'm not sure whether you wanna make it, so liberal to get that waiver down there.
well, it wouldn't be required because
Right, in CBD, this whole stretch of downtown, there's actually we already don't have parking minimums or maximums. So when somebody comes into a zoning permit, if somebody came in for a zoning permit on Long 24, we would check their parking count. If somebody comes in for a zoning permit to reoccupy a space down here,
What about a new building?
same, if it's in CBD
It's in
zoning
CBD,
district,
there's
it's
no-
exempt from
So they don't
parking.
have to put in any parking at all?
no, like wood chips, no.
Right.
And that's
Which
com-
is-
that's
Zone
common
CBD,
downtown.
It's
which
common,
has
yeah,
no
it's- yeah,
parking
right.
requirements because of the
Wow.
municipal and on-street parking.
So that's gonna cause even, well, I mean, it's a good thing, I'm not saying it's not a good thing that's happening, but that's gonna be like
No,
crazy.
Yeah, the problems I've seen though is you get a lot of people who, apartments upstairs will have 12 cars parked out, permanently.
Yeah.
I used to live about downtown, and back when we had meters, I had so many tickets. Because you were required to move your vehicle every night. I was 22. I was-
You weren't gonna move it, you
No.
weren't gonna move your vehicle.
Just to,
Forgot about
Are they
I think
paid?
what you're talking about is really from exit realty all the way down to even past the old courthouse, but on the north side. That is like, I think, somebody was storing like their work vans or something
Oh,
over
those
there.
big white vans that are
Yeah,
out there.
I mean, there's
Yeah,
no
teamwork.
parking, like hardly anybody parks on the north side. I mean, to me, if we have full parking lots and you have to walk across the street, and then that parking lot looks full,
Yeah.
go back 10 years ago, remember what it used to look like down here.
Yeah.
There was nothing. We had a bunch of resale shops and no cars, and now it's a little more vibrant. I think it's a step in the right direction. And the fact of that it looks busy lends to more businesses maybe wanting to come because it looks busy. We have not enjoyed as busy of a downtown as we've had since I was a young guy. I mean, some of us older people, I don't want to really look at anybody in particular, but
You're still pretty young.
well,
I think the bottom line is, the problem is the use of the county complex building downtown. I think that really lends the problem that there's just not enough space, and, maybe we should ask the county to build a parking structure. I don't know.
Well, I've been working
For
with,
themselves.
I've been working with Mr. Sanzo to maximize their parking and to minimize our city parking for their uses, but yeah, it's definitely a problem. Probably the best thing that they can do is have some of their municipal workers go park in parking lot number 5, because the southern edge of that parking lot does not get used.
It
But-
used to, many years ago, like 20 to 30 years ago, people would park over there. But because this parking lot that is next to the courthouse now, that's a DDA parking lot. When that was all refinished, everybody was all like, oh, this is a nice parking lot. So then all of the employees, came over and parked there, and people stopped parking in that parking lot number
Well-
5. So you're right, if they would utilize that parking lot more, if everyone did,
So-
it would not be so bad.
Yeah, so if their boss told them they had to park over there, maybe, but we're also working on like pedestrian friendliness. We wanna have safe crossings. If you guys haven't noticed, all the pedestrian crossings now are going towards the ladder standard, LADDER, ladder standard. Cause we want it to be safe for people to cross over, so they
Absolutely.
feel like they can park over there and safely get to the courthouse.
Right.
So I think we'd like parking waivers, but we don't need any parking waivers anywhere near downtown. I think is where we're at.
Well, you need standards for what.
And we need standards for,
Yeah.
review approval.
I'll keep walking.
I mean, deferment makes all the sense in the world, but waivers need standards.
Waivers, yeah.
In the rain.
Okay, hopefully this is an easy one. So zoning permits, so we get a lot of zoning permits in the city of Lapeer, a lot of people wanting to occupy existing spaces. which is great. We've got a lot of property already built out in the city. You know, the spaces for new builds are decreasing by the day. So one thing that we do in zoning permits is, like I said, is we check their parking counts to make sure that they have enough. You know, with these changes of uses, there's different parking standards for each different use. So if we get a change in use, we have to ensure that the new use has enough parking at that space, that lot that they chose to occupy. So one of the things that we've been getting on people on is that, you know, a lot of these parking lots are not in good shape when the property gets turned over. There's potholes everywhere, it's pretty unsafe, the striping is almost you have to restripe, you can't see any of the striping that used to be there. So, when restriping is occurring as a result of maintenance, we've been requiring everyone to come into compliance. You gotta come into full compliance with parking lot standards, right? So you have to do all of our double line striping and the, that's about it. I think that's the newest requirement for the double line striping. There's not really much else new in the parking standard other than the double line striping. So this is just kind of maybe looking to you guys for a little bit of backup, because we get a lot of heat on this one. Of people wanting to do some work in the parking lot, but they don't want a double line, or they don't want to restripe it at all. So this is just something that, you know, we currently check for parking lot general maintenance, and I think we're going to continue to do so, because, and especially double line striping, I mean, as you guys know, as you drive around other communities in the state, every state that has an affluent zoning board, affluent planning commission has, you know, double line striping in a lot of communities in Michigan, so. Yeah, sorry, Mike.
Sorry, so is the question, business comes in, they take over use, the parking lot's in good shape with single lot, or single lines, are we saying that's okay, nothing changes? Versus they come in, it's in poor condition, potholes and everything, and you can't see the lines, and that's when we say, hey, you gotta fix your parking lot and double line stripe it?
I think you said it best. If it's in good condition, we wouldn't force them. If the striping doesn't need to be touched, we wouldn't force them to.
Right,
To
hence the
pick it
policy
up.
that we're
Yeah,
working on.
right, because I see it as a little silly just to say, well, because you took over the use, you have to spend money on double
Right.
line striping, if the striping is in good shape. Because, you know, striping doesn't last that long. So, you know, once the striping goes away, that's when we say, at that point, you have to double line stripe it.
Kim, I don't know if you well, I'm sure you remember because he came down to see you, but when Jeff,
EG next.
yeah, he was concerned about this very thing because if he would have just striped his parking lot, that he wouldn't even had to, like, there was nothing for him to consider. I think he misunderstood that one. You referred him back to the other parking lot behind the building, but once he came in and talked to you, he understood. He thought he was losing a bunch of spots due to the double striping. And the way I understood it was they measure from the center to the center.
There you go.
And all you're actually doing is just adding another stripe. It's not taking, he thought he was losing something like 16 parking spots as a result.
I don't think this changes numbers parking spots
It
at all.
doesn't, I
It doesn't.
referred
No,
him,
well, he was under that, but it didn't, yes.
yeah, I referred him to go look at where the Aldi's
Yeah.
Aldi's parking lot meets up to the Grondins.
Yeah.
Because you have single line striping and then you have double. And it's very clear you lose nothing.
Well, I sent him to you, so thank you.
That's where I sent him.
Yeah. So the important thing to remember on that point is that our minimum width for parking spaces did not change. When the city adopted this double line policy, the minimum width is still 9. It's always been 9, it's still 9. So you might lose a space or two in a very long row of parking spaces, but it's very marginal, the amount of space that you lose with this double line striping.
So this might be a silly comment, but I'm assuming there's some kind of permitting associated with restriping a parking lot?
No.
Do we have a policy or some kind of indication about what's required regarding double line striping?
Oh, as you know, we're working on that.
So it
But I
might,
think what he's looking for is to firm up the language in the zoning permit language that we're gonna look at these things.
Right.
I think that's what
That's
the
it.
intent
Thank
of
you,
this
Ken.
amendment is.
if I could finish my statement.
I'm sorry.
Perhaps it's worthy of just putting a little parens comment in there that says, this does not change the number of parking spaces, or you will not lose parking spaces because of this. That way, if somebody sees it, they're not like scared and they're gonna do it in the dark of night, you know, ask for forgiveness instead of permission. which I'm sure occurred, I
Oh,
know
absolutely.
occurs, because it occurred this week.
It has occurred every week for half a year. That's been a lot of pushback on that. Yeah, okay, so I like what Kim said there, and I think that's the consensus of the commission too. When a parking lot has to go through some general maintenance, when it has to be restriped, the parking lot has to be brought into compliance with our double line striping. So I think we can add a note to that effect in zoning permit that says, when a parking lot has to be restriped, has to become into full compliance with article, whatever our parking article is.
Is the board okay with it staying as is as a single line, if that's what's inherited and is in good shape at that point?
I would say yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
I do like the double lines though, because it allows you to like,
Me too.
yeah, you got that space where you don't feel like somebody's gonna
Space.
like hit your door. I think that's
Currently,
really
we
nice.
require them to come into double lines if they're doing a black service.
Right, oh, okay, all right. But yeah, I
That's
agree.
been the policy.
Yes.
So they don't ding your Porsche?
So another thing that we should check on is waste receptacles. Inclusion of waste receptacle, location and screening of a waste receptacle. Check for compliance on that in zoning permits. Because we often are going through a zoning permit and then one of the things that we find is that their waste receptacle is way out of compliance. Maybe they don't have a method of screening at all, the location is awful, it conflicts with parking spaces. So we would like to add language to our zoning permit section that says, when you come in for a zoning permit, one of the things that we will check is to make sure that your waste receptacle is in compliance with our waste receptacle section.
So this one's a little double sided for me. So this is probably my biggest pet peeve. I think when people just take a dumpster and throw it out in their parking lot, it's the most horrendous looking thing in the entire city. And this is one of the things we're absolutely working on with parking lot number 9, north of Nipissing, because you guys walk through there, there's like a dozen dumpsters out there. It's horrible. But on the other hand, so the solution is you put them all into enclosures. On the other hand, and correct me, Ben, if I'm wrong on
Yeah.
this, most standards are that the dumpster enclosure has to be brick or concrete block. And now you're talking about $30,000 to $40,000 per enclosure, which is gonna be very bad for business. So do we want to, and correct me if I'm wrong on that, but do we want to change our standard to allow lesser requirements for the enclosure itself to encourage the creation and maintenance of the enclosures? So, for example, in my previous community, we changed it from brick and cinder block to pretty much any type of fencing material except for
Chain link.
chain link, yeah.
Yeah.
But you can get some really cheap looking fencing material that's not chain link.
Well, that's what
Right.
I'm saying.
I mean,
We
so I
wanna-
think you need some standards as to what kind of material that you allow. Like, you almost need to like have the person, the applicant show the material to make sure that it
Oh, yeah.
comports with.
Well, but
Our
is this gonna
standard.
be Ben's decision-making based on those
Yeah.
standards, or
I don't know.
do we wanna say it must be, and this is entirely possible, what's that Trex material? Like a high-quality
Yeah.
Composite.
Like-
composite plastic, I mean,
Right,
that
right,
could look
plastic.
good. Maybe, cause there's different types of wood too, is it like, is it cedar wood that looks really good?
I think so.
I mean, there's different options, I think, out
Right,
there, that are
exactly.
lower cost, but still look good.
So I think we allow for fences to be an approved waste receptacle screening, but we're pretty stringent on materials. Maybe that's one option we could do. Or maybe not pretty stringent, but just, I'll develop
So I
a
think
list
if
of
you do allow
materials.
that, you're never gonna, you'll never have another brick enclosure ever
It's true, you
again.
probably won't, yeah.
Never.
On the other hand, there's a lot of dumpsters that are just sitting in parking lots that are never gonna be put into an enclosure because it's too expensive.
I agree.
And the maintenance of those is important because those dump trucks will just, and then they never get
Follow
fixed.
up and then never get fixed, yeah, maintenance.
Mr. Madison?
Yeah. Do we have it in our ordinance that businesses can share an enclosure? Like 3 or 4 businesses go together and share?
Mhm.
Is there anything that prohibits that?
I don't know, that's what I'm asking. Do we have anything like that?
I think that's actually gonna be required, in the parking lot number 9, because, you know, there's, I don't know, like 8 or 9 dumpsters right now. We're
Mhm.
putting in 8 or 9 enclosures and no more. So if other businesses come
There's
in
a lot
and
of
need an
businesses.
enclosure, they need to have a third-party agreement with an existing business to share a dumpster. So So I don't see how that would be prohibited, but yeah, I agree with you.
So we'll make sure that that's included. I'm not sure if it's included. I kind of think it might be because I think of the multi-tenant spaces that we have in the city, and I think not every tenant there has their own dumpster. Just thinking about sites in my head, but we'll make sure that that's included in there, that multi-tenant can share dumpsters when appropriate.
Just another thing I'd like to see is something of ownership of that dumpster. This is X businesses.
Or an address.
Yes.
Or,
So there's a little owner's responsibility to keep that
Oh,
clean.
you're shaming them. Good on you.
well, we have somebody.
There's a lot of closures that get dirty.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, even the brick ones, or the concrete black ones,
horrible.
start looking like garbage after a while. I think it's just, you know, they start leaching out salts out of them, and it's a fancy outhouse at that point, right? So, you know, you wanna hide it, but do you wanna make it an obstacle for someone wanting to do business, right? I think it's like all the fencing stuff we keep talking about. I think we all agree chain link fencing stinks, and almost everything else works to some degree. So I don't know. I mean, it would be my thought that, you know, enclosed for sure, and then have a little more flexibility with what the screening is. I don't know if I'm saying this right.
Yeah. Right, so we add fences as a method of screening. I don't think it currently is for waste receptacles. And then we get pretty specific with the materials allowed, right? So we kick chain link out and maybe the lowest quality type of wood, but then most other materials can fly.
Yeah, because you can get some pretty cheap woods up there, but
Yeah.
as long as we meet earth tones, that's what I like.
Good point. Good point.
We went an hour and 40 or an hour.
But that
Last
worked
one.
out,
I
that
think we-
worked.
that's the last
Then before we move on,
one. Yeah.
I can't help
so,
myself.
this might be just me being
addiction.
uptight about it, but I see a lot of dumpsters where the doors are just wide open permanently,
Mhm.
which kind of defeats the purpose. Do we need to have some performance standards that they must be closed except for during the time where it's being emptied, et cetera, et cetera?
I think we could, because then bad sites who leave them open all the time, then we can point to a standard and say, hey, look, it says here that you need to close them.
Mike, maybe you can answer this one. So, right behind Upsing Street, all of them down that parking lot, they're just setting up.
So that's something I inherited.
Yeah.
I would have never allowed that if it was me.
Right.
I think the businesses have just been allowed to do it over years,
Yeah.
and at this point, what are you gonna do, kick them all out? But as you guys probably know, we're gonna spend a huge amount of money on that parking lot in the next year or so.
Mhm.
And part of that is gonna be a requirement that all dumpsters go into enclosures that we're going to provide as part of it. I don't know if the commission's taken a position on whether we're going to rent it to the businesses to help pay for the cost of doing it or not. But yeah, that is absolutely a standard that's gonna be met. And I believe there's already enclosures on the south side, right? On the south of
Some,
Nipissing?
there are
I
some.
Can the DDA just special assess the businesses to cover the
think
cost?
so, yeah.
I'm saying,
Where do they like the
They have to padlock
if
those
we
things
could,
shut,
if we
too.
could share dumpsters, it might be cost effective.
Last proposed amendment, I think, on here, I'm pretty sure, is that one waiver that I think would be a good one to house in the we would say planning department or planning commission. Potential to allow for the planning department to grant waivers from required dumpster enclosures, not just the planning commission. And I think this is important because some of these sites tend to be some very simple waivers, especially if you think about the sites that are super built out on Imlay City Road as you're driving out there. There's a few of those sites that they have their dumpsters technically in the front yard of their property. So our standard says that a dumpster and its associated enclosure needs to go either in the side yard or in the rear yard of the property. So that site is technically not in compliance because it's technically in their front yard of the I-1 zoning district. But really what's going on is that property is at a disadvantage because of where the former, owner chose to build the building on the site, right? There is very little, if any, rear yard on that site. So I think we could do this with a pretty stringent, pretty strict requirement that basically says if you don't have space on your site to put the dumpster in the side of the rear yard, then we will allow it to be put somewhere else on the site.
Can we have a mitigation requirement that if they're going to be allowed in the front yard due to lack of space, they're gonna put a ton of arborvitae in front of it? And I want that language in there, ton of arborvitae.
Right. If you are allowed to put it.
Looks like it.
I like that. Major Yeah, okay. Okay. All right, magic question. Anything else? Anything else that you guys have drummed up
Overhead.
on topics that we need to change?
Overhead doors.
Yeah.
We've had a number of, I don't know if they've been waiver requests, but we've had a number of businesses who've asked for overhead doors or sliding large doors. And this board doesn't seem to care about that issue, which I don't personally care about that issue. So I don't know if we want to remove it or do something different with it. What's the thoughts of the board?
I have no problem with them. Same things that came.
I go by Muffler Man every day over there in the corner, doesn't bother me one bit.
As long as they're earth tone.
That's
Right.
That's all, that's really all I care about.
It's a swear jar, you know that, right?
You gotta put down.
What is it?
Then another silly question.
Yeah,
So
no, that's all right.
there's some really hip spaces where they allow basically garage doors in the downtown to allow a slide up kind of wall, so you can kind of have outdoor seating while still being indoors. Is there anything that prevents that in the city? You don't have to answer right now.
Not that comes to
No,
mind.
we've interpreted garage doors to be something you could drive a
To be-
vehicle through. So like the one at Vinyl and Wood Chips, we really didn't consider that a garage door.
Are you saying it is allowed then?
But maybe we could explicitly state that it is allowed, and then we probably get more of them. Okay. Okay, so just one quick training conference note. So the Planning Michigan Conference, 2025 MAP Conference is up for sign up right now. It's in Kalamazoo this year. There's a lot, I see a lot of planning commission members go to this conference. You can sign up for just one day to go. You can wait until the schedule comes out and see, you know, what agenda items are on what day. Probably have a few former road planners there. Caitlin always does a presentation at the conference that's always great. Jason has done one last year. Some planning commissions get together and say, okay, we're gonna send you 2 members to go to this meeting and report back everything that you learn on it. So if you would like to sign up, it is a few $100s, but you can Google Planning Michigan Conference and you'll find it, and I'll be there.
And the planning commission has a certain budget, so I think it's probably first come served, first served basis until the funds are in, right? Is that-
So maybe let us know if you wanna sign up. If that's something you'd be interested in, then we could help you out with that.
Did you have a comment, Jim?
Yeah, I was just, thinking that maybe we should look at, housing. Some stuff in housing, like minimum square footage, allowed and lot sizes and all that good stuff.
What about minimum training standards for the board members? Correct me on the history, but wasn't there a requirement that the board members attend at least some training throughout the year?
It's 2 hours of training.
That was changed in the RRC rules. We don't have to do that. We just have to provide so many opportunities per year to do the board.
Okay, but I'm saying maybe we want to impose a standard upon ourselves. You know, if we're taking this serious, we should be trained for it. I strongly believe every member should probably become a basic citizen planner at the very minimum.
How many hours is that?
Too many.
73.
It's
It is a lot.
Okay, well-
It's extremely, extremely valuable, especially if you have some sort of planning background.
I'm
at
gonna-
all.
You gotta go to
But
college.
it
Crossing
can
the
be, it can be
line.
done entirely online.
So, I remember when Caitlin was sitting in her chair, she provided us with some online virtual stuff that was easy to find. I did it. There's been some webinar type, I cannot get through the minutia
Yeah.
to even watch these things. It's a link to another link, and before you know it, I'm lost, so I just
Yeah.
give up, because I don't have a lot of extra time for these things, but I'm interested in doing them. But the way, like I screenshotted some of them.
Yeah, sure.
I couldn't get to any one of them. they kept leading me somewhere else.
Somewhere else, yeah, that's some trouble, okay.
Yeah.
I like that, I can totally find some of those.
Yeah, I think it was right through the Row website, cause I had to call and get
Wow.
a password and.
Yeah,
And then I did a report of what I had leared.
brought it
Yes,
back
you
to everybody.
did. You did an excellent job with that report.
Well, you can watch it at 1.5 times the speed and get the same effect. If I'm gonna be completely honest, but I actually did keep notes and I did learn things, so if that's the
I
intent,
like it. Right,
that-
exactly.
just something for me that would make it easier.
Easier to, right, it's, right.
Yeah.
It's
I
pretty
think as a
hard.
commission, I agree, I think we should have like a minimum number of requirements, number of hour of requirements that we have to like, I mean, I'm not saying it's gotta be 73 or whatever, if you gotta get certification, but, you know, even if we say we're gonna do like 3 hours a year or 4 hours a year, I think then we're committing to like being educated on what we're supposed to do here.
Well, I
So-
know for a fact that the 2-hour minimum was never enforced. And the reason I know that is because someone shared with me that they'd never done one training, and
What, did they ever go to like a joint meeting or something like that? Because most
they
of the
may
time,
have not been counting.
the joint meetings are counted.
Yeah, perhaps.
They always have been
Yeah.
since we started.
And they adopted
They
it,
can
and
amend
I think
the
that.
I don't know if
they
that's,
have to-
there's not much training in there.
Yeah.
I'll say
I was gonna say-
depends if you guys are listening to me when I talk.
Well, we're listening.
I think the one that we have at the rec center, I find that one extremely beneficial, especially when we took time to go there and give our ideas, and we wrote things on those little sticky notes, and then the next year, we got to see what actually happened with those.
By
That
the
was
way, the
good,
reason we didn't do that this year was,
because of.
Oh, no, I was asking for a separate meeting, it's fine that it ended up being part of the joint meeting, but you can't blame it on
no,
me.
you just sit there and be wrong.
I'm not wrong. I'll never be wrong, just so you know.
Well, thanks a lot.
Josh, real quick, back to that minimum square footage allowed, minimum lot size, were you thinking of decreasing them to maybe like, just start the tiny home conversation, or what's your,
Yeah.
what's your thought? Yeah, maybe?
So
I think we gotta get creative.
but I have a question, so how does that work when you have like an HOA that has a minimum square footage that exceeds that amount?
Well-
Because that is what the HOA wants. I mean, it's just a question, I don't know how that, does that end up conflicting?
Well, the short answer there is we just don't allow the HO to impose that standard. Because they have to come to us and say, here's what our HO is gonna say. And we say, sorry, if you require that and our standard is different, you don't get to use your standard.
As somebody who lives 2 blocks north of here, I would not be in favor of a
Well,
tiny home being put on the
so-
lot next to me, simply because of my property value. But I think it's a good idea, I just wonder how you would be certain areas that you could implement that, or would it be citywide?
You could do it by zoning district, but I think we're maybe a little bit less positioned to do it right because of how much residential we already have built out. It's not like we have neighborhoods waiting to be built in the city of Lapeer, it's gonna be, like you said, a row of houses and maybe you find one tiny home or two on that street.
Yeah.
And
Don't say that, I'm working on neighborhood development.
Well, could we shrink the minimum housing site and put it like 2 of those on one site instead of just one big?
Right.
Because if you look at statistics, we're building the wrong size homes for what we
Well,
actually need.
See, the problem, Josh, is you're right, but the developers don't wanna build tiny homes, they don't wanna build 800 square foot homes because it's
There might be
unprofitable.
developers that come around that realize that, hey, family size shrunk. Maybe its cities aren't, there's a terminology and it's called affordable housing and people don't like that. I don't like it, I think it just attainable housing.
Well,
Because,
Just change the word.
yeah, just change the word, because
but the thing is,
if you if you can or can't afford to live at a place, if you have help or not, at that point, it is attainable.
but they have specific terminology that means specific things. In particular, low-income housing is 30% AMI versus, what is it, 80 to 120 AMI is attainable workhouse housing or something like that. But I would agree, Mr. Atwood, that maybe we need to look at ways to increase our density. Not necessarily make tiny homes.
Right, not
necessarily
like
make
tiny
this,
homes in every neighborhood and.
But take a look at the different rules that are maybe inhibiting our ability to have higher density. Would that be a fair statement?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just looking at, we're building the wrong size homes for people that can't afford homes, and their family isn't that big, the average size is 2.4 or something like that.
0.4? How do you?
I have
0.4
no
get?
idea, but family size has shrunk, and
Well, the minimum for R1 is 850 square feet. For R2, the minimum dwelling size, R2 and R3 is 1,000 square feet is the
That's
minimum
small.
required.
but at a 250 square foot price tag, a 800 square foot home is
Man, there's square feet is like-
$200,000 still. That's,
Well, it's
That's
more
just
about
for the home.
material-
That-
It's
that's
more about
not-
the cost of materials than it is about the size of the house,
that's not buying like the property, and
right?
so you're looking at 250,000 just to build an 800 square foot home.
But Josh, don't you think what you're really talking about here, because I think the tiny home, that industry has changed greatly since manufactured housing. They're no longer being built the same way, they're just smaller versions of nicer places, right? Where, you remember Active Homes, some of us older people again, up in Marlette,
Yeah.
they were building inside the plant, building these homes of very poor quality for a low price, and they were essentially modified trailers in a sense.
They were modular homes.
Yeah, they were modular homes, and mortgage, well, it's a tough gig, but development, if there is money to be made and there's property available, which is probably not gonna be real close to the city of Lapeer, it's gonna happen, right? So if a developer, because remember the trailer park that they wanted to build off, LJ's farm area, over there?
Millville?
Yeah,
Oregon?
remember we kind of kiboshed that one? There's areas for that stuff to take place, but I mean, do you think, like, the city of Lapeer, that makes sense for development, or are you talking individual lots?
It could be anything, individual lots.
Because I would just be
Nobody had
concerned as
to-
a neighbor, like, it's, the value of those homes are not going to be on par with the value of even older homes next door due to the size and the nature of what they are, right? So you have to consider the people that live in that immediate area and the impact it's gonna have on them. That would be my only concern. Now, if you went a little farther out of town and you had somebody develop an area that was just for tiny homes, I think that'd be fantastic. But I just don't know how feasible that would be in the city.
Well, let's not get hung up on tiny homes. I think Josh is, I mean, again, you're entirely correct. But, we're talking about maybe increasing density. Modern duplexes can fit in the same footprint as a single-family home, and they still look nice, and they're not significantly increasing the density, and now you have two families instead of one family. So I think there's probably ways we can slightly increase the density without negatively impacting property values or anything else.
I'm just looking at,
Worthy to explore, at least.
getting maybe creative, but, it doesn't have to be a tiny home, just,
Except in
look
front
at
of
the
your
out,
house.
not recreate the wheel
Don't put it in front of my house.
or anything like that.
I've rented one in Florida and it was awesome. So it's not a personal view. What I'm talking about is taxable income to improve our schools and get our millages passed. That's what I'm talking about. And I think that, I don't even know how to say this. I want bigger taxable income homes. That's what I want, because that might help pay for some new schools for our kids.
You know what we really need? Yurts. We need yurts in this town. No, I'm thankful, I'm not gonna get into it, but lots of good discussion.
Yeah, so there's a happy medium, and we'll find it. We'll do some research, we'll figure something out.
All right.
That's too much HGTV.
Obviously. Went over the training and back, now we are to commissioner comments. Commissioner Brady?
I just wanted to say thank you to Ben for putting everything together and making it, you do a great job making it clear so we can see what's going on.
Thank you so much, I appreciate that.
Commissioner Pat, I'm sorry.
Yep, I'm
Okay,
done.
Commissioner Patson?
Those were good comments. I'll leave them on the table. Thanks.
Commissioner Atwood?
I'm all set for
Commissioner Bostic?
I would echo her comments, nothing else.
Vice Chair Roberts?
Yeah, I already shared that with him after the last meeting, same thing. Yeah.
City Mayor Womack?
City mayor.
City Manager. You're already mayor, you already got it.
Mayor and manager.
I'm normally, because that's the route I go, you know,
I like my job as city manager.
You got it.
No, same thanks to Ben, thanks to Ms. Hodge. I know Ms. Hodge does a ton of work that you guys don't see. And I think we're moving in the right direction.
Good deal. Nothing from me. Adjournment.
So declared.
So declared.
Shortest agendas turn out to be the longest meetings.
I learned that one a couple years back.
You ain't got nothing on it. Let's talk.
I learned that one a couple years back. I remember one, I was like, wow, it's already 9? What the heck?
I got to the meetings.
Yo, got me, I was like, there was nothing, nothing.
I have a good
It's
buddy.
right where I'm driving.
That was one of the early
They just,
early.
Edge, because
there's
mine's
a city-owned block.
Hmm.
It was controversial, but it's, so, anyway,
Hybrid.
so they're actually allowing a
You hit your head.
And
build